A very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for Issues at Hand this morning. It is always a great pleasure to have you as our audience in the morning. Now, of course, it's Issues at Hand where we discuss issues to do with political, economic, social, but also not forgetting educational and inspirational, and once in a while, current affairs. But of course, we are always glad, like I said, we are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott and Tewe. Comfort and luxury at its best. Of course, no one doesn't love a little bit of comfort and luxury, especially after a long day's work. So you can go with friends and family and enjoy different services that are catered for by Protea Hotel by Marriott, located in the heart of Entebbe. My name is Carol Noamani. You're welcome once again. Now, of course, today we are having a very, very special discussion because tomorrow is the World Rabies Day. And of course, we want to look at everything veterinary, and in the short time that we have, we apologize for starting late. In the short time that we have, we're going to summarize everything veterinary, but especially a close look, a keen look at rabies, and of course how they affect humans or how they affect us as a community. Now you can go and follow the conversation on our Twitter at Church of Uganda Family TV, on Facebook, on Instagram, as well as YouTube, where we shall post this subsequent video, and you will continue to share with us your thoughts about the show. In studio with me are panelists from different entities of government, but let me start with Dr. Hannington Katumba, who is the head of Veterinary Services, Directorate of Public Health from the KCCA. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, and my other panelist is Dr. Ben Ssenkera, Senior Veterinary Officer, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. You're welcome to studio this morning.
Thank you, Carlo.
Okay. So let's start with some easy questions to ease our viewers into the topic that we have today. What are the most common diseases among animals? And I'll have to start with Dr. Ben Ssenkera.
Thank you very much, Carlo. Like today being a discussion on rabies, I think I'm going to point out those diseases that follow within the same category as rabies.
Okay.
Those are the diseases that are shared between animals and humans. I will start with rabies. And then I will go to brucellosis. This one affects mainly cattle, goats, sheep, pigs, you have, and humans. Then apart from brucellosis, you have diseases like anthrax. Anthrax, that one causes sudden death. It can affect both humans and animals, and the humans get it by eating meat from infected animals.
Okay.
People who just eat meat from unknown sources, among others.
Okay.
Yes.
How about Dr. The names are going to confuse me a bit, but Dr. Katumba Hannington, yes, how about, what do you have to say about the diseases that...
The animals have very many diseases. The list is quite long, but it's trying to just break down for the purposes of discussion today.
Okay.
We would prefer now to focus on diseases that are shared between humans and animals. The one they call, the scientists call it the zoonotic diseases.
Okay.
Which can cross from animal population to the human population if we are not careful, if we don't balance our relationship with animals. Yeah, so that's all I can say about now. And the reason you talked about rabies is because it's one of those.
Okay.
And it's one of the most dangerous, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My second question will be, is it healthy for human beings to relate with animals closely? Of course, in our society, we usually have people who want to pet animals, have them close to their home, have them in their beds at some point, actually. People love these animals too much. Is it safe for humans to relate that closely with animals? And I'll start with Dr. Ben.
Thank you, Carlo. Maybe my first question would be back to you. Do you have an animal?
I don't have a pet.
Would you
Okay,
like to have one?
No.
Okay. If you look at the Bible, God created the humans, animals, created the plants, and so on. And he gave powers to man to oversee all the creatures.
That's right.
On this universe, including the animals. Meaning that animals are part of the family of man. Yes, it is safe to have animals, like especially pets, the dogs, the cats, but our colleagues across, if you go to Western world, they have other pets, for example, snakes.
Oops.
They have snakes, they have crocodiles, among others. For us in Africa, mainly we are still looking at the dogs, the cats, the parrots, which the hens sometimes. But in our African setting, it is hard to have a hen as a pet, because a pet is an animal that you are not going to eat the following day, but you cannot have a chicken because tomorrow you'll eat it. So it is safe to have animals, but as we are having these animals, we must take care of them because they also have their, we call them welfare aspect that must be looked at. You don't need to sleep with the animal in your let's say dog or cat in your bed. Just need to have its own housing, because like we say, there are those diseases that can cross from animals to humans. So it's always safe to keep a distance, but we need to always love these animals because they are part of our family.
Thank you. Dr. Hannington, what do you have to say about the pets in our homes?
Where I live and work here in Kampala, in the city, people are becoming more elite and more having a little more cash to spare.
Yeah.
So the problem he was talking about of having to worry about eating the chicken or the goat next day is somehow reduced here in the city. So people can afford actually to own pets and even spend on them.
Yes.
So it is very okay, it is very safe, and it's actually increasing, it's rising. Right here in Kampala and the neighboring areas, people are having many pets, especially dogs and cats.
Yeah.
A few may have these exotic pets, parrots, whatever, horses, blah blah. But mainly right now it's dogs and cats. Yeah.
And it's in your opinion, you think it's safe to have
It is very okay, it is safe,
Okay.
as long as there is definitely a disclaimer, as long as you're doing the right thing you must do to have a pet.
All right, let's get to the right thing you must do to have a pet. What are some of the safety tips you would give people who love their pets? Because it is allowed, since you've said it's okay to have the pets. What are some of those safety tips that you could give somebody who loves pets to keep maybe away from diseases and avoid some of these diseases that come with animals?
Okay, so like my colleague said, Dr. Ben said, animals must also be allowed to exhibit their natural behavior as an animal. For instance, he said, if you're sleeping with it in the same bed, covering yourself and blah blah, that's unnatural animal behavior.
Yeah.
So one of the things you must do is, generally, you must create an environment for it to express its natural behavior, to play, to exhibit, to mate, to eat, to do what, all those things. So firstly, the whole point broadly is responsible ownership. When you own an animal, make sure you create for it, give it its appropriate food. Don't get a dog and you're feeding it on chai every day, every morning, spiced tea. That's unnatural food for the dog.
Okay.
So you must feed it. That's one. You must shelter it properly, appropriate shelter.
Okay.
Naturally, a dog or any pet, naturally it does not necessarily need an air-conditioned house. The way God made them, their immune system, their body is built now that they can actually live with some level of coldness and whatever, but it's not just exposed in the world, because these are domestic, not wild animals. These are domesticated animals. Okay. So give it food, give it shelter, but also take care of its health.
Okay.
That means that's why we have trained veterinary doctors like myself and Dr. Ssenkera and all others who are out there, provide medical attention, checkups, vaccination, treatments when they need treatment, and all that. So these are some of the few things we can talk about right now. Okay,
Dr. Ben, you can add something on the safety tips of animals.
Yes, like what Dr. Katumba alluded to, the animal needs to eat good food, the pet. If you're eating meat, your dog or cat should also eat part of the meat.
Okay.
You need to, you know, they are also having the same needs like us, and that they will not talk to us. The treatment talked about have them vaccinated, groom them, make sure their hair is properly clean. You remove the external parasites. You also control the internal parasites, meaning that you deworm them. So all these aspects, cleaning, proper sleeping, good food, but also when it comes to the kids usually like to play around with these pets. For example, a dog, a cat, you don't need to touch or pull its tail. It can bite you because I think it's very painful.
Okay.
So you don't need to, they don't need to pull or touch the what?
The tail.
The tail. Also, they shouldn't be touched into their mouth because they can bite. So these are some of the tips that people need to ensure they do when they are having pets at home.
Okay. And if a pet gets sick, I'll start with Dr. Ben. What are some of the procedures somebody should carry out in case they're at home and their animal gets sick?
So for you to say that maybe the animal is, my pet is sick, it will show abnormal behavior. For example, if it has been eating normally, it will refuse food. Maybe if it's a cat, it meows a lot. You sit kind of crying. That's what I mean. So in case you hear that, the first thing you need to do is to seek the veterinary officer or someone with expertise in that area to have a look at it, examine it very well. When you examine, there is physical examination, looking at the clinical signs, you look at the eyes, you look at how they are, you look at the membranes within the mouth, and you can take the body temperature to see what could be the issue. You can take blood and you test in the lab to know which kind of disease this pet is suffering from. Then from there, you prescribe, you as a technical person, you prescribe the kind of treatment you should provide. Sometimes you may need to require, maybe they are telling you, change the food it is eating, so you change. For example, dogs and cats are not good at eating chocolate. So if you give them chocolate, you're kind of poisoning them. Yes. So you may give them chocolate and then you see them passing a lot of poop, and you'll be like, what's wrong with my cat? Yet it is you who is actually giving it wrong food. So that's the case, what I'm trying to bring out. Thank you.
Do you have something to add on that point?
Yeah, some of the issues animals have actually have to do with not even feeding, but just management, the environment. For example, there are people, for example, you find the dog or the cat has no house, no particular house to stay, so it has to look for itself where to live. You find those are the dogs that you actually find on the streets, on the garbage bins, on garbage piles, on the verandas, in the garages, in old cars and everywhere. And the most obvious thing, you will find that these dogs or cats have a very bad skin. The mites and ticks and fleas and all that, which is also, again, against their welfare, like he told us. It should be, since they are dogs, for example, they have been told since time immemorial that they are man's best friend. So you can't have a best friend who is on the street and no care, no anything. So we should be able to, it's justified why you should be able to give them good housing and good medical care to avoid some of these things that we see, the dogs we see on the streets looking terrible. There are dogs also which have been neglected by their owners or dumped somewhere. So.
All right. Let's get to the next question. Now there is this issue where we lose animals. They die. For example, a cow dies and they slaughter it, and the meat is, distributed for consumption. And my question would be, is it safe or healthy to eat meat from a cow or any other animal that has passed due to disease? I'll start with Dr. Ben.
Thank you very much, Carlo. Africans love meat. A lot. So, but it's not, I would say not all meat is safe. And therefore, if an animal has died and you're not sure of what has caused its death, it's not safe to eat that meat. That meat must be disposed of appropriately, either by burning or by burying it. So people should be advised not to eat meat from dead animals. So the meat which is recommended to be eaten is meat from an animal that has been healthy and appropriately slaughtered, the meat inspected, and then given a mark. For example, we usually stamp it to show that it is safe, it has been inspected, and therefore it can be eaten. So that's the meat which is safe. So any animal that dies of any disease, or whether that dies either from known or unknown, is not safe for human consumption.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Hannington, what do you think about animals that have died and are consumed by people, yet the people are not sure?
Totally the same thing. It's the reason why we are here. Please use us. We have trained veterinary professionals of different cadres, and they are supposed to do that. That's part of their work, to make sure, but by principle, even in the Bible, that anything that dies, you should not eat.
Okay.
Leave alone that. Anything that dies. I've also said now, do not eat. Make sure that we only eat animals or poultry that have been slaughtered appropriately in the right way, in the right place, inspected, and then the meat passed and made available for consumption.
All right.
Whether it dies on your farm or in transit or anywhere, whatever dies is for condemnation or destruction.
Thank you. Do you think Ugandans are sensitized enough about the do's and don'ts of such unfortunate events, like not being able to eat the meat? And if not, what should stakeholders do to sensitize the public about such issues? From a veterinary doctor's point of view, let me start with Dr. Ben.
I think what we're talking about, it's not safe to eat meat from dead animals, because there are so many diseases that one can pick from that kind of meat. I talked about anthrax, because in most cases when an animal dies from anthrax, it is sudden death. You find it, an animal has died with a bloated or swollen stomach, and sometimes when you critical observe, you will see blood, flank blood coming out, the blood which cannot clot. So if people eat such kind of animal, so they are likely to get anthrax. So it is not safe to eat that meat. Okay. So we always, people need to always seek guidance, even when you're buying meat. So if you find meat from a funny place, you need to find out to ask before you buy. We have people, whenever they say, I know the price of meat has dropped, maybe from 10,000 to 5,000. Carlo, you would wish to go and buy the whole carcass and say, this is cheap, I would be eating piece by piece. So it is not safe. So we always advise people not to eat meat from dead animals, and always go to places which have been certified by local authorities, the butchers, the slaughter facilities, to buy meat for human consumption, because there you are sure that the meat was inspected and passed for man to eat. Okay. Yes.
Dr. Hannington, you think?
Yeah. In addition, some people actually are aware, but like you said, many Africans, we like meat a lot. But sometimes it's hard to tell whether people are aware or not aware. Yeah. Because you find when they are eating meat from dead animals, they're doing it either quietly or secretly, or doing all sorts of things, which show that probably they are even aware. But we are doing as much as possible, as government, as private practitioners, everyone, to sensitize the people. That's why we are here, actually. Okay. And the campaigns are going on in almost every district in different forums. We have extension workers that are strategically placed in the districts and sub-counties to make sure that people get the information, to consult before doing certain things. From the time I grew up, we knew that there are specific points in the trading center to buy meat from. And it's expected that the veterinary officer, the authorities of that town or whatever, have gone through the process to make sure that whoever is availing meat for consumption, it has gone through the right steps, inspected and passed and availed to the public. Okay. So it's an ongoing process of sensitizing and letting people know that this eating meat must be the right meat to eat. Okay.
Thank you so much for that information. Now let's get to the discussion to rabies. And rabies is a vaccine preventable zoonotic viral disease affecting the central nervous system. Once clinical symptoms appear, rabies is virtually 100% fatal. And I would like to start right there. As you explain to us what exactly is rabies, also talk about the fatality of rabies, especially to human beings. I'll start with Dr. Ben.
Thank you very much. You gave a very good background. Rabies is a viral disease, so it means it's caused by a virus. And one of the big issues is that once the clinical signs show up, then you are 100% sure that that particular person is going to die. There is no recovery. Once you start barking like a dog, so there is no recovery. So the disease, it affects both humans and animals. It is transmitted by dogs and cats, mainly for the domestic animals, but even cattle can be affected. Pigs can be affected by rabies. Then in the wild, you have the foxes, the mongoose, among other animals. So those animals can also get affected by rabies. Now, what I can also add is we have been with rabies. So rabies is endemic. We have been with rabies for such a long time. But there are areas where so many cases, I would say, are reported. Those are what we call the hotspot areas, and those are urban areas. And one of the things which we see is that in these urban areas, there is poor disposal of food remains. And that's what attracts these roaming dogs to come in and be eating food. But as they are eating food, you may find that one of the dog that may join this group could be rabid. And in case, when we say rabid, it means it has rabies. If it bites another dog, then such particular dog is likely to get rabies. What I can also add on there is that this rabies can be is mainly transmitted via saliva. When the dog which has rabies bites you, then the saliva can get in touch with the wound, or through a porous membrane or on the skin surface, so you can easily get the rabies virus into your body. And like you said, it affects the central nervous system. So it means it just goes through to the brain and it cuts off the normal functioning of the brain. Yes, like one of the signs for people who have got rabies is, apart from fearing light and also fearing water, there is what we are saying they fear light, they fear
Those
water.
are the symptoms.
That's what you're going to see. A person, there is what we call hyperactivity. A person who has been humble, or a dog which has been humble, if it has rabies, it will start moving up and down. It increases its activity. You get it? And the one which has been so making a lot of being so active, when it gets rabies, it will calm down. You'll find it if it's a dog having a coiled tail, sleeping somewhere, and once you provoke it, then you can get a bite, which can result into rabies.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Hannington, what is the current situation of rabies in Uganda? Because I understand it affects mostly children. So what's the current state of rabies in Uganda, and is it under control?
Under control, we are doing as much as possible as government and as KCCA to have it contained, to have it in control. But it's endemic. It has been here and it is still here because it is being harbored, kept somewhere in the wild population, but also in the dogs, those we have, and those which are roaming where we cannot pinpoint the owner. And these are always in interaction. Dogs go somewhere to hunt, to do what, and then they come back into our population. So until we have that interaction between us and the wild population in control, it's hard to really get rid of rabies.
Okay.
Secondly, our statistics show us around maybe 15,000 bites annually. Bites, those are animal bites. But you know, for a dog that bites you, it's not necessarily that it's giving you rabies. A dog can, even your own dog, you can step on its tail and it bites you. Some dogs can bite you because they don't know you. Guard dogs. Some dogs can bite because of provocation, especially children. And that's why you asked me about children. The statistics show us that actually children below 15 years are the most affected, the most who get dog bites particularly, because they like playing with them. They're the ones who pet them most, and they're the ones who like also provoking them at the same time. When I grew up, every time I saw a dog, the automatic reflex was to pick up a stone and throw at the dog. So you can't get surprised that actually children are the most affected, bitten by the dog. So among those bites, you have those ones which incidentally had rabies, and then they affect the children.
Okay. Dr. Ben, tell us about the vaccination of rabies and if it can be prevented in not in early stages, because once you get it, you've said there is no turning back, but can it be prevented, and how?
Yeah. Thank you very much. We have an English proverb which says prevention is better than cure.
Yes.
So like we're saying, the source are the dogs and cats. So it is better that we prevent the dogs and cats from getting infected, and we can do this through vaccination. Like you mentioned earlier, rabies is 100% can be 100% prevented through vaccination of dogs and cats. You see, the vaccine for rabies is very cheap. I can tell you it costs around $1. That's a dose. Okay? But if you get a dose, that's the rabies vaccine for dogs. But if you get a dog bite in a human, and you go for the what we call post-exposure prophylaxis, which is available in human hospitals, you're going to say around $10. That's what you're going to spend to treat this case, meaning that it's better to have the dogs and cats vaccinated against rabies. The Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries always avails rabies vaccine for dogs and cats. For example, every financial year, the ministry spends around 1 billion Ugandan shillings to procure rabies vaccines plus other related supplies, like the cards, to make sure once your dog is vaccinated, you have a card to confirm that it has been vaccinated. Then when it comes to humans, the Ministry of Health spends around 7 billion to procure the post-exposure prophylaxis, that's PEP, for those ones who have been exposed to dog bites.
Okay.
So you see how expensive it is.
Yeah.
So it is better that we focus onto the vaccination. But like I said, ministry, but also the private sector. There are people like the smaller people operating smaller animal clinics within urban areas. They can, if you cannot access the government, also the private sector is available. They do the vaccination at a cheaper rate. Okay. For the government, it is free of charge.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you. So let's talk about the World Rabies Day tomorrow. Maybe I'll start with Dr. Hannington. Tell us about this day.
World Rabies Day is a day that is celebrated in the whole world. I don't know if it is a celebration, but it's a commemoration rather, to have activities that rotate around preventing or controlling rabies in animals and humans. And there's a global target of having 0 death from rabies by 2030. Okay. So every country right now, on this whole week, the actual day is 28th, but in the whole week, every country, every district, every veterinarian should be and is actually doing activities to prevent or control rabies. So nationally, we have a celebration which is being hosted by Gomba district. Okay. All roads are linked there right now, but also within the different districts, including KCCA, Kampala as a district, we are having activities around that. We are vaccinating dogs and cats for free at designated spots. Okay. Yesterday we were at Katanga Playground, just here near Makerere. Today we are at Kansanga City Secondary School, the playground. Okay. Tomorrow we are going to be at Mbuya Community Hall. Okay. The next we are going to be at Kasubi, and then Saturday we shall be at Impelere playground. Okay. So we are doing all that vaccination of all dogs and cats at no cost, at free, but also we are controlling the population, dog population, by sterilizing them. We remove the uterus or the male organs to make sure they don't give birth unnecessarily. When that happens, is where we end up having these stray dogs that you see on the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because of time, I would like to wrap the discussion up from here. And it has been a very, very great time with Dr. Hannington and Dr. Ben. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We hope to have you another time. Tomorrow is World Rabies Day, and as you have heard it, you should take your dog for vaccination in the designated spots that Dr. Hannington has mentioned. Otherwise, from Issues at Hand and the whole production crew, it's a good morning. Thank you so much, and we shall be here again tomorrow and next week to be giving you facts about issues at hand. My name is Carol. Stay well. Bye.